Welcome back. Welcome back to the Connected Teamwork Summit. My name is Hilke Faber, and I'm here with my next guest, Jen Waltz from Krone Technologies. How are you doing, Jen?
Hi, Hilka. It's a pleasure to see you today. Thank you for all of your amazing work in leading this summit, bringing to bear all these amazing voices from all these terrific companies and how we are dealing with connectedness in the moment. I'm great today. I woke up. So everything on top of that is a bonus.
Beautiful. I love your energy and the the inspiration and enthusiasm you always bring to any call I've ever been on with you. I really appreciate that, Jen. We're going to talk about this next team defining moment. Now we're getting into the element of the black belt moment, which are the hardest ones after the white belts and the blue belts. And we're going to talk about setbacks and stretches and how we build connectedness. And before we dive into that, I want to say a few words about Jen. And before I talk about the things about Jen, I want to talk about Jen for a moment. When I think about Jen, I feel taller on the inside. I feel my heart opens, and there's a sense of encouragement that oozes out of any interactions I've ever had with you, Jen. So I don't know exactly how you do that. We're going to go into that in a moment, but it's a person of such strength and courage and deep felt care for everyone around her, which is just a beautiful being to be around and to learn with. So I'm so grateful that you're here, Jen, today. Jen has decades of experience in business development, alliance management, and global partnerships as the vice president now of global alternate channels at Krone, and that's a leading global cybersecurity solution provider. She's responsible for the strategy and execution of building profitable ecosystems that drive scale and growth for the company and its partners. She's passionate about creating the best experiences for partners, for customers, and cross-functional teams through conscious leadership. I read intentional leadership and technology expertise. She has also a lot of other interests where she shares her giving spirit. She's a founding member of N Formation, which is a community that empowers and connects women of color leaders together. And besides that, Jen, as I said, is an amazing human being. And what better person to walk into this black belt moment of setbacks and stretches with than Jen. So welcome, Jen, again.
Thank you, Hilka. It's a pleasure. Just to introduce myself to everyone, I'm Jen Waltz. And as Hilka said, I have global responsibility for building out our alternate channels for Krone Technologies, a cybersecurity company that's been around for 20 years. And I am helping lead the charge as they grow their North American business market. And so as I'm responsible for, the overall strategic direction, leadership, execution, and management of our global partner relationships, it's my job and my duty to demonstrate value to all of our partners, helping them scale partner revenue and being accountable for developing and executing against a very strong strategic annual and multi-year revenue target. My role is a key part of Krone's executive team, and it's my role and my duty to contribute significantly to the organizational strategy and external relationships with our partners and those we wish to attract. And so when I think about, I'll talk about my mission statement before we get into connectedness, because there is a direct parallel to it.
Let's do it. Yes.
So my mission in this role is to harness the power of the channel landscape by leveraging a winning global strategy with resellers, referral partners, and distribution partners to help them expedite the time to deliver value from partner lead generation to joint solutioning and achieving market recognition, business growth, and more importantly, trust with, to, and through our partners. And I do this by focusing on relationships in order to become the trusted advisors and the partner of choice in the area of cybersecurity. And I do this, like you mentioned, Hilka, by leveraging my personal integrity, my ethics, and the most important thing is driving a win-win mentality so everyone can succeed. And so to me, connectedness and being in this journey together is all about seeing the wonderful outcomes that come from sharing this moment, whether they're good or bad, and how we rise to the challenge to overcome and become greater than what we were before.
Yeah, what a fantastic context for this conversation. Rising to the challenge. So let's talk about challenge. Let's talk about challenge, right? What happens with Jen, good, bad, ugly in challenge? And
Mhm.
how do you lead others through those challenges and still
Well,
build connectedness? What can you tell us a story?
yeah, I can actually. I have several. So, I'd like to think when the universe brings us in to this physical presence and we become who we are as humans, we have a path, like a path that the universe has already set us on. And so in my path, I've had personal losses in my life that has propelled me to be the person that I am today.
Mm.
And so I share this with people that I meet. Um, Losses in terms of I was married before, and that marriage ended because my husband died from depression. And that was significant to me. I was in law school at the time, and it was just overwhelming to deal with.
Mm.
And this happened in the midst of my mother having terminal cancer, and I'm having to care for her. And also, I've had loss in terms of the one thing that I've always wanted to do and be is a mother. And I've had, through some accidents, I had a pregnancy that I lost. And so when I think about how I was able to overcome all those personal challenges, even though I've been winning in my professional life, it was important for me to, whenever I speak to someone, to say, I have been there
Mm.
and
Mm.
I can relate to all the challenges you may have had personally. And I think that's one of the things that resonates for
Mm.
me is that I
Mm.
see people. I
Mm.
see people when we are in hurt, when we're in joy, when we're in challenges, and
Mm.
when we just need someone to
Mm.
listen.
Mm.
And so I will share a tidbit with you. My father is like literally one of my heroes outside of the deity that I believe in. And one of the things he shared with me when I was a young girl was he said, whenever I would come to him with a problem, he would say, do you want me to listen or do you want advice? So think about that for a
Mm.
second. How many parents are mindful enough to say, I don't want to dictate to you. I want you to come to me with vulnerability and
Mm.
talk to me so we can come to
Mm.
um, a place of mutual understanding and support that I can give you.
Mm.
So, when I think about setbacks, whether in our personal or our professional lives, these setbacks and obstacles, they're here to stay, right?
Mm.
And I can't say that I'm totally immune to the vagaries of rejection and setbacks, but
Mm.
one of the things that I do with my team is I make sure that we set aside time for disappointment. We
Mm.
talk about things. Now, I do believe in positive psychology, and if you meet anyone that I've met in my entire, 40 some odd years in this world, everyone knows I'm super positive.
Mm.
Um,
Mhm.
but at the same time, I don't believe in ignoring reality, right? I
Yes, yes,
acknowledge the fact
yes.
that there is this sinking feeling when negative things occur. And I do feel discouraged and disappointed. But what I have taught myself is to put a very fine timeline in my mind so that I no longer ruminate over that event, right? And that
Ah,
limit is up to us. But I definitely talk to people about making sure that you live in that spirit of setback, but make sure that you don't dwell in it forever.
Mm. So many things you said already there, Jen, about being able to see the other person. Like, I see you and I see you being in the challenge, and I am willing to be there with you. Love the question that your dad asked: do you want me to listen or do you want to provide advice? And then you saying, don't dwell in the challenge, make time for it, don't deny it, and then find another way, find a way through it. So what I want to know from you, what I want to learn from you about is, since you've had so much experience with loss and setbacks, for example, you started off very vulnerably talking about the passing of your husband to
Mhm.
depression, right? You talked about sinking feeling. How do you work with sinking feeling in yourself that in humans tends to accompany things not going well? How do you work with that in a way that helps you to stay connected with yourself and others?
Yeah, I actually, I appreciate you asking that, Helga, um, because I go back to my mission statement, right? And when you think about what my job is, to drive and focus on relationships, that's what I go back to.
Mm.
The people that I have, um, you know, met along the way that helps me center myself. Like, what am I doing? Am I doing this for the right reasons? Do they align with my personal North Stars, which are integrity and honesty and being ethical with every person that I meet?
Mm.
I think about what my future is. And that future can be anyone that I'm interacting with. What is our future together in
Ah,
this moment,
ah,
right? Because it's not just about me. It's
right.
about us together in this journey. And
Mm.
then I think about, like, how do I stiffen my spine to get the temerity to move past and not dwell, because I do know that there is this beauty in connectedness, because it's like a flower, right?
Mm.
You think about every time you've gone through a setback, what has it taught you? It's taught you something of persevering, resilience, and it's like a seed that you plant
Mm.
because better is coming.
Mm. Every setback is a seed that's planted because better is coming. I'm also resonating with you saying, like, your mission of staying in integrity with yourself and staying focused on the relationship and what are we living into? What's the future that we are living into? So sometimes things get really tough and
Mhm.
relationships end, right? Or you lose people. How
Yes.
do you practice this Gen beingness, this win-win, this positive psychology, this stiffening your spine? So many beautiful things you said in those moments, through those moments.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. So, people that know me well, they know that my story, I like to say, goes from cookies to clouds to cybersecurity.
Oh.
And I was a lifelong Girl Scout. And I take that so seriously. Those things about courage and confidence and character to really make people's lives in the world a better place. I know for a fact why the universe brought me here.
Hmm.
The universe brought me to this place, gave me life so that I could be a gift to other people. I
Hmm.
know that and I lean into that. And
Hmm.
sometimes, Hilka, that upsets other people's demons and the things that go on with them, because maybe they're not coming from that place of strength and understanding about themselves.
Hmm.
So I really lean into, um, again, all these things: courage, temerity, strength. because quite frankly, it's in my DNA.
Mm,
You know, I've learned that connectedness is not just about building a network, but it's about nurturing these meaningful relationships,
mm, mm,
these
mm,
connections that are my support system during setbacks, because they provide me the strength to persevere. And
mm,
they're my source of wisdom and energy during these stretches that
mm,
help me grow and adapt. And as a leader, I've, leaned in and realized that fostering this culture of connectedness within my teams, and not just my teams, but even my friends, and that we're all in this together, and that it's super important for
mm,
us to be connected for resilience and innovation.
mm, mm. I can see you uh, being very different from being in ego consciousness, where you're like one brittle little reed standing in
Mhm.
the storm, versus this tremendous tapestry that you're nurturing, that is resilient, that you lean into, that you keep weaving, and that is able to hold and work with the challenges as they come in. And you may get stretched, and you may discover new strength in this tapestry because you keep nurturing as opposed to dwelling on this thing that just happened. So it's not the thing, it's the intentionality that you fall into, that you fall back on. You don't fall into
Yeah.
things, you fall back into your intentions, is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Yeah. We're going to take a short break, Jen. After the break, I want to explore more this idea of how do I get to the learning on the other side of a setback? How an upset can become a setup for learning. So how we're going to go through that part of that. We are speaking with Jen Waltz, who is a senior leader at Crone Technologies, and we're talking about how you build connectedness when things don't go well. See you after the break. Yes, so we're talking about these setbacks and stretches, Jen, and how do we find, how do we get to the learning in those moments? How do we do it?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked me this, Hilka, because getting to connectedness, whether it be your team or your family, number one is you have to be open and honest, right? And that takes vulnerability.
Mm,
Um, it's crucial for maintaining the morale, the resilience, and effective problem solving. Like I said, not just in your teams, but even in your relationship,
mm,
your marriages, with your children, being open and honest and
mm,
being vulnerable about your frustrations
mhm,
and addressing others' concerns. Because again, it's not just about you, it's about the other person on the other side of it as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then I think about how we get to that point of open and honest communication is by being empathetic. I, as a leader, it is my duty to demonstrate empathy and understanding to all team members, in this environment. I think the beauty of diversity comes from it's not what you look like, it's not what your sex is, it's not even who you love. It comes from your experiences and the fact of how you dealt with issues in your lifetime, which gives you diversity of thought. And that is where we center around.
Mm,
And then I think about team building. So I'll tell you an example in my previous role. And I know my team probably at first thought it was pretty corny, but I would get together with them and I would hold happy hours. You know, after, like on Thursday, we would
mhm,
get together and we would, hey, bring your favorite beverage. And I know some people were probably uncomfortable with having an alcoholic beverage on camera, but, I would bring my husband on and my husband would sit down and talk to them. So, basically coming from a place of, hey, I'm not just your leader.
mm,
I'm part of your team and I have the same challenges that you have. So relatability, right?
Yes, 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 yes.
And then I think about, defining roles or responsibilities. How do we address the setback? Making sure everyone knows what their part is in this recovery process. And then fostering collaboration, making sure that people understand the importance of sharing ideas and that no idea is a bad idea. Because you have to start from, okay, how bad could this get? So when you attack a problem, when you say how bad this could be, you're basically solving how to get there, right? How to solve
Right,
it.
right, right,
And
right, right.
then, like support, celebrating those small wins just by waking up and showing up and participating and having someone value you. All those things are super important. But even more important, being flexible,
Mm,
being
mm,
adaptable,
mm,
making sure that people are seen and heard, but even more importantly, maintaining a positive outlook. Now, Hilka, I'll tell you, because I am so positive and I radiate positive, great energy, like I said, some people can't handle that.
mm-hmm,
And it, to me, when those things, it hurts my feelings when
mm,
someone would say, how can this person be so positive? It has to be fake. Someone actually, I heard, called it toxic positivity.
mm,
Let me talk about that.
mm,
What human could ever possibly say that another person has toxic positivity when they have lived through struggles? I've lived through a death, several deaths in my life, and chosen to stay positive because it's in my DNA. I'm
mm.
here because we're resilient. So
Yes,
that's some of the things I wanted to share with you.
gorgeous. So intentional positivity that's there, that
Yes.
radiates through you, that you take through. And I hear so much in what you're saying, Jen, about how working through setbacks, a big part of this is to stay connected to others and be flexible, adapting. That's how you are together in this challenge and work with it and work through it. Yeah, work through it. What would you say to somebody who is in the midst of it, like in the midst of it, like it's just hailing and storming and it's shaking, all of it, it's going. What would you say to a person like that who feels maybe a little overwhelmed in the moment?
Oh, that's a great question, Helga. So I like to do post-mortems, pre-mortem, right? So thinking about how did we get here? Usually, number one cause is poor communication. Everyone wasn't on the same page regarding feedback, updates. And I've been in situations like that where I could have brought more people along and I learned a lesson from it, in terms of decision making, in terms of hiring team members, making sure people understand the why. Then you think about how we got here, lack of trust, misalignment of goals and values. But then, even it could be personality conflicts. It could be the person is overwhelmed. But how you as a leader is what we have to do to help our teams regain connectedness is, again, open and transparent communication, active listening, making
Mm,
sure people feel safe, that they can express their feelings and concern without judgment,
mm,
right? And understanding as a leader that you fully understand their viewpoints without guesstimating.
mm,
And then leading by example.
mm,
I've, you know, I've I pride myself on being a role model on, hey, making sure that I am collaborating with others,
mm,
I'm treating them with respect, even when they don't deserve it, and then openly communicating on a regular basis, and then making sure that I'm doing things, understanding my role in where the trust breakdown happened,
mm, mm,
and admitting any flaws that I had, because we're not perfect humans,
mm,
Hilda.
mm. So on
So,
that, actually, I want to get to this question before we are out of time, which is I want to know how you deal with self judgment. And the reason I'm asking that is because I see judgment as one of the core underminers of positivity and love.
Mhm.
So tell me about, how do you work with these persnickety thoughts that I guess you'd be having too?
So first of all, Hilka, I don't worry about what anybody thinks about me because it's not my business.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What is most important is that I am listening. What I do, again, is I come to a conversation from a point of, we're here. How do we overcome this together? If it's a negative situation, let's talk. Maybe there are some factors behind the scene that I'm not aware of that could change or contributed to that situation. But I reflect on it. I first always look internally to say, what did I do to get to that? And I own it, right?
Right.
But I do that because ultimately I want a relationship with this person, right? That's the most important thing. I want a connected relationship with that person.
Great.
We don't have to agree, but I do have to I have to respect them and I have to show value and appreciation. So those are the things that I do, Hilka.
It's all about, seems like all about really keeping relationships in the forefront of your mind, in the forefront of your mind.
Yes.
And it's almost, as I'm listening to you, that there's just no judgment. There's no place for it. There's just no place for it. That's no place for it. We're getting towards the very final minutes of our little time together today, Jen. So my last question to you will be, so what would you say to somebody who finds it really challenging to relate to others when things get tough? They go into their shell or become hard or rigid. What would you say to them?
What's their preferred method of communication? Are they a writer? And so, if so, would they feel comfortable writing down all the things that are upsetting them at that moment or putting them in this situation of chaos or misunderstanding?
Yes.
Or do they feel comfortable speaking to someone and having a very candid conversation? And so what I say is always trust your gut, trust your instinct, but always realize none of us are perfect. We are trying to exist in this moment. There's so much going on politically, economically. There's so many fractions right now. But leaning into possibly the person has good motives that they might be having this challenge with, and really talking it out in whatever form they feel comfortable doing so.
I'm going to take that with me, Jen. Leading into the other person has good motives. It's been an absolute delight to speak with you today and to learn more about the intentionality of staying focused and connected to the other. How do you stay connected to the other and keep the heart open to seeing their positive intentionality even when the things get very, very tough? We've been speaking with Jen Waltz from Crone Technologies about this next team defining moment of setbacks and stretches and how to stay connected to our positivity, to our integrity, to what's really important to us. Thank you. We're going to take a short break and we'll continue the conversation on the next team defining moment, which will be about undiscussables and conflict. See you after the break. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Hilka.